Welcome back. You are watching The Core, coming to you live from Channels Television Studios in Abuja. And we're taking a close look at Nigeria's primary healthcare program. Now, you can join the conversation on our social media handles, Twitter at Channels TV or at Kadria Ahmed. Please use the hashtag #NGTheCore. We are also on Facebook at Channels Forum. We will do our best to read your comments and your questions to the panel that we have. Now, before the break, we were discussing what you saw primarily as some of the issues why local government would necessarily fail to provide adequate primary health care for its people. And I'm trying to understand, are you saying that the current arrangements, as far as you're concerned, don't work, and so an agency such as the one headed by Dr. Shuaib does not need to exist, or what? I want clarity on exactly what you're saying.
Far from it. It must exist for the purpose of coordination and national mechanism for primary health care to work. It's a central agency, if not more central than some of the diversification we are having in the primary health care environment. What I'm saying in essence is that if the the local government areas are empowered, the empowerment can come, for instance, by the legislation to ensure that the local government have their autonomies. That means they have their direct funds from the federal government. Then you can now start putting the blames on their lap that, look, you are not doing what you're supposed to do. Number two is that, as even the executive director of Primary Healthcare Development Agency himself knows, that a lot of resource empowerment needs to be divested or cascaded to the local level, to the C level, that is at the local government level, to enable them to function. An agency like National Primary Healthcare Development Agency is providing not just so many others, but in technical, and if it's over-labored.
Okay, let me stop you there. I want to bring the reporter who's on the front line of reporting on some of the issues that we see. I think there's a general consensus that things are not working as they should. What has been the consequences of this? What have you found in the field?
Well, what happens is that when you go to some of the primary health centers, there are no doctors. You find a nurse and large queue of women that have labored to come to the hospitals, either to give birth or for one medication, and they're easily frustrated. And so, because of that, they tend to other alternatives. And even when a doctor is finally transferred to such locations, his stipends are not paid, no accommodations are provided, and before you know it, he leaves. And then the cycle starts all over again. And then we keep seeing mothers dying, babies dying, and then the trade blamed, they start trading blames. Okay, no, the federal government, there was no drugs. The drugs came, it was held up at the state level. It couldn't get to the local government on time, all sort of things. So it's just like Dr. Abanida said, if the primary health care is to work, they need to be empowered.
Okay, let me bring essentially the person who might be in a position to actually do something about it. When you hear this sort of thing, first of all, there tends to be a focus on women and children and pregnancy and all of that. But the primary healthcare system, as I understand it, the mandate goes beyond just, pregnant women and babies, and is the front line for all sorts of things, including communicable diseases and all that. In your assessment, and we've heard what others have said, but how are we doing? Your honest assessment as the man who is charged with running this.
We're not doing well. I mean, it's unambiguous, it's absolute that we're not doing as well as we should be doing.
Okay, what can we do?
Well, what we are doing at the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency is to work and coordinate with the state primary healthcare development agencies and the local government health authorities, working with the states around how can we do a better job of ensuring that these primary healthcare centers provide quality services, no matter where people live and work. So the issues around the poor state of primary healthcare services, can be categorized into two. So issues that on your supply side and issues on the demand side. So on the supply side, that is around, issues within the health center, right? What government is doing now, and government has done this in the last few years. Unfortunately, we're not seeing the results, right? But I know that in the last couple of years, as part of the Federal Ministry of Health's intervention on the supply side, is to say that at least in every ward, we should have one functional primary healthcare center. What does functionality mean? It's not just renovation. It's also around infrastructure.
That's 7,740
for local governments. But we have almost 10,000 wards in Nigeria. Right. But we're saying that for each of those wards, people can be better served if you have one functional health facility.
Do we have one functional at the moment?
No, that's far from that.
So what are the numbers? If what we need is about 7,740, how many do we have?
No, so 774 is for local government areas.
Yes.
The wards are a subunit, right, within a local government, average of maybe about 10 to 12 wards in every LGA. So if I were to, we're saying we want about 10,000 health facilities that are functional, right? Approximating to the 10,000 wards that we have in Nigeria. Right now, we have just about 4,000 or so functional health facilities.
So not up to half.
Not up to half. Not up to half. However, functionality, again, will be variable, right? So what is functionality, right? In some areas, it could, we have what we call the basic minimum, but in some areas, right, you will have a situation where there's a health, maybe there's a doctor, but in some areas, most rural areas, you have nurses, you have community health extension workers, right, that are providing these services. But all of that forms what we call functionality. Is the infrastructure, is the health workers, is the provision of drugs, commodities, is utilities, all of that. And then the demand side is around what you're doing to ensure that, yes, these health facilities exist, but are people aware? If a woman is pregnant, does she have the information, does she have the power to take that decision that she needs to go to a health center and get antenatal care? Are there immunization services? Is it linked to the community?